Good morning, good afternoon. I think we even have some folks joining us internationally, so good evening in some cases, I think. We've got a great crowd that is joining us today. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this. This session today, this month's session is going to be on transforming Wi-Fi into a smart analytics engine with Cisco and Aislelabs. My name is Al Dumdai. I'll be hosting today's session, and I'll be joined by two guests today, Blanca and Ibrahim, who will be presenting the Cisco solution, the Cisco Spaces solution, and the Aislelabs solution for this. Just as a couple of reminders, number one, we will have Q&A available on the WebEx, so please, if you have questions, we love to make this interactive. Just go ahead and ask your questions in that chat space, and we've got a number of folks that are joining us on the call from both Cisco and from Aislelabs that can help us answer those questions. And then the other thing, just as a kind of a way to call out a thank you, we appreciate Aislelabs sponsoring the giveaway today. So I think probably everybody is aware of this, but the first 75 participants, and you have to stay to the end, the first 75 participants that stay to the end will get a $20 Uber gift certificate. So that's quite a treat. So thanks, Aislelabs, for sponsoring that. Okay, so we're gonna start off with Blanca, and then we're gonna go to Ibrahim, and we're gonna talk a little bit about, I would say it's kind of how do you monetize the Wi-Fi. The example I like to give is, I can remember when this was probably 8 years ago, I did one of the largest convention centers in the world. We spent probably 6 months preparing it, getting it ready for action, so to speak. And my office at that time was co-located with the business development office from the service provider that was basically managing this network for this very large convention center. And I remember they had the call on speaker, and it came across that their manager was asking them to come back and figure out how to now monetize this network that we've developed. And I remember the expressions on their face. and so what I like about this is we've come so far in this now that it's much more evident in how we can monetize this, right? In how this can be valuable for your organization and provide real insights and real monetary value for that. So again, we're going to turn this over to Blanca. Blanca's joining us from Charlotte. Ibrahim's joining us from Toronto. And Blanca, you want to go ahead and take this away?
Yes, thank you, Al. Am I coming across good?
You sound good.
Great. Hi, so as Al mentioned, my name is Blanca Wong Mosqueda. I'm here to talk to you about Cisco Spaces, coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina, where Cisco Spaces turns your buildings into smart spaces. So one of the most powerful things about your network is connectivity, and that capability of using your network and your components in that network to really create this OS for your smart spaces, creating the functionality of your collaboration devices, your network devices, from end-to-end Cisco, including Meraki, as well as our on-prem Catalyst, whether it's switching, Meraki MT devices and sensors, as well as our third-party partners. That's why we're here presenting with Aislelabs as well. So, giving you an overview of what Cisco Spaces delivered with the most recent Forrester report, especially in focusing on our asset locator, we were able to provide 10 to 15 minutes of time saved by helping employees track down assets, and 20% increased likelihood of customers achieving and activating retailers' offers when they use location-based engagements. And that's really what we're here to talk to you about, is how do you engage your customers, and how do you increase that monetization of your overall network? So what is Spaces, and how does that come together, and how do we really visualize that overall space? So from a Spaces...
Blanca, real quick, can I interrupt just a second?
Sure.
You have a meeting minder that's come up on the bottom down there, so it's covering up some of your screen.
Okay. Let me...
If you could maybe close that out just so we can see the whole screen there.
I was
Yeah,
wondering if that was doing
perfect.
that or not.
You're not the first,
Yeah.
and you won't be the last.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. How's that?
That's much better.
I
Thank
was seeing it, but not seeing it. So I was like, is it showing up?
you.
All right. So let's start all over again. So Spaces as your OS for your smart spaces. What we offer here is indoor location services, a multi-sensor connect environment for your IoT services, AI maps, as well as occupancy using those sensors, as well as your wireless infrastructure. Wi-Fi onboarding seamlessly with our multiple different applications, and then API and integrations with our third-party partners, as well as our Spaces Meta and API integration with Firehose. And all of this then builds on top of our existing infrastructure, integrating with all the different opportunities and outcomes with real estate teams, facility teams, as well as retail environments in different verticals, and being able to provide customer outcomes and location outcomes across the board as an overall solution and operating system. So how does this all come together from smart spaces? We use our Cisco networking infrastructure, including our collaboration devices, Meraki and Catalyst, in addition to transforming all of those with our different apps, which we've already mentioned, and then our partner applications, being able to deliver that unmatched experience with wayfinding, occupancy, and smart room capabilities. So one of the most recent things that we've really done is being able to provide you with indoor location, giving you multi functionality with our overall location engine, which provides accurate indoor positioning of indoor-based location of RTLS. And we've been doing this for over 18 years within Cisco in itself. We started with our small MSC and then CMX and then to Spaces in the cloud, building on those generational of wealth and knowledge in location-based services, and as we continue to build on that. So next thing we do within Spaces is Wi-Fi onboarding. With Wi-Fi onboarding, we simplify and automate the process with open roaming, which for a lot of people, if you think about it, is, hotspot 2.0 with enterprise identity. Being able to seamlessly onboard and provision you onto your wireless network without any kind of intrusion or any kind of captive portal, and the user is automatically onboarding, improving security because it's a secure SSID. It also improves the overall experience. And with this onboarding process, then it allows the user to really become this analytical point in your infrastructure. We also offer an SDK, which supports our software development kit, which easily integrates into your applications, allowing you to contextualize into your mobile apps. Spaces also provides large amount of occupancy data because we unify and take all this analysis of that network and wireless infrastructure from your access points, and then we can contextualize this in reports for your end users. So what really sets us apart overall, we have a 24/7 AI monitoring system that supports 99.9% uptime. We have full integration with all of our Cisco Meraki and our Catalyst system. We are secure and compliant with GDPR, ISO 2 and 001, SOC compliant. We're also on our way to FedRAMP by this summer. And we have end-to-end cloud services from day 0 and day 1. So if we look from our overall retail, hospitality, airports, and stadium, as we're going to drill down into each one of these engagement points. So the Wi-Fi onboarding and loyalty, personalized engagements, revenue generation, and visitor segmentation and behavior analytics. We're going to go into our smart venues. What is smart venues? So think of this as I walk into either a hotel or I walk into one of my favorite stores, or I walk into my favorite stadium to watch my soccer team play. And as I'm walking in, I'm automatically onboarded onto Wi-Fi. I didn't take any action. I just was automatically pushed onto the Wi-Fi. And now I'm able to access all my data and my text without having to worry about any kind of captive portal or taking any information in. And what this gives you as a customer is this acquisition of this data through our API calls. You can then pull this loyalty information, and you can also assign visitor segmentation, and you can now see the behavior analytics from this onboarding process. Because once I'm on the Wi-Fi, I'm now this additional sensor point that's on your wireless network, and you can then engage with me at that point. So some of this onboarding that we look at, we have here a great example of our Open Roaming SDK. And we'll go a little bit further by talking to Eric, who's a little Triage loyalty app user. And Eric has gotten a notification on his Triage mobile app. So this is our SDK embedded into a mobile application for the software-defined kit. He's seamlessly connected. He's been provided with the terms and condition, and he can opt in to go ahead and then receive notifications. So right away, he's got his profile. He has terms and conditions, so there's no need to worry about, oh, he's on our Wi-Fi and he's going to do something dangerous, because he has accepted his terms and conditions, and he's automatically on our Wi-Fi, boosting his loyalty. So wherever he goes in any one of our hotel chains, or if any one of our retail chains, he's automatically on our Wi-Fi, and then we can engage with him at that point. So if he wants to receive 15% off one of his meals during his stay, or a 10% off his shoes that he might have purchased, this is an engagement point that we can do through our SDK with Spaces. We also offer an app, if you're not using the SDK, where the user can easily either sign a QR code or download the app and log in through their Apple or Google ID, and then seamlessly onboard through the Open Roaming app that's offered through Cisco. What this enables is an always-on secure Wi-Fi experience, and then we're able to visualize where the user came into our office, how many devices that we've seen, how much traffic is being used indoor and outdoor, the number of connections that are being used. And if we have poor cellular coverage, we're also able to augment that coverage with Open Roaming. And if Open Roaming isn't one of those options for you, we do also offer captive portals, which we have an entire team that actually creates and customize captive portals for you. And then we can, with minimal amount of information, depending on how you'd like to customize your portals, we can take your name, phone number, email, and etc. And then these become contactless acquisitions from your end users. And then they can be automatically connected to the internet. We can grab their seamless information, onboard them, and then this information can be integrated into your CRMs or your loyalty systems, and they can show and localize any kind of information that you'd like to position to your customers. We can also position videos so that they can visualize any kind of video or offerings within that captive portal as well. So with these contextual engagements, either through our engagement app or our Spaces SDK, it allows you to really personalize these multi-channel engagements with your customers increasing your overall business impact for anyone coming into one of your retail spaces or any one of your stadium locations or any one of your healthcare environments. So some of these might look like a mobile app push. So we can actually push a notification to the mobile phone. We can send a notification through SMS, through email, or we can even do an API trigger through WebEx chat or meet and greet. But all of these integrate and provide you with a 360-degree customer view. So you can see here that Sarah's team is also getting a customer acquisition with all their locations. So we can see on here how many customers actually came on, new devices that connected to the SSID, how many users were identified, how many customers actually opted in to anyone, how many data capture points were captured. And then this data can be exported out and be used in any one of the systems that you'd like to use in either a CRM, a BI system to provide you a more holistic view of your customers. And with all of these analytics, we can then see behavior of how the customers are behaving within your venue or within your environment. So we have specific applications called behavior metrics, location analytics, and impact analysis. And we also have our real-time occupancy and alerts. Now this tells us real-time what is the capacity and threshold of your location. So how many people right now real-time are at my locations. And with this data, I can visualize, I can prevent crowdsourcing, I can prevent bathrooms being overly used, or if a bathroom is overly used, make sure that my maintenance is making proper maintenance of the bathroom in itself by sending any kind of notifications. So all these real-time occupancy will tell me exactly what's going on. Another use case would be if I want to make sure that a lot of my people feel safe going into a building, I can send them real-time information on how occupied any place might be to let them know that there's a certain threshold available, or if they want to come back later, to come to the buildings so that they're not worried about how many people are around. Now, our occupancy analytics provides historical information and analyzes on monthly trends across all of our locations. It gives me the density of the overall floor. It gives me the density of the threshold on a daily basis. So I can evaluate my locations on how busy they are and then determine if my locations are being properly utilized. I can also use this as a method of proper employee usage. Do I need to increase my employees doing a certain time frame in order to make sure that I'm serving all of my customers properly during that time, day, or week? And then impact analysis is always fun, especially when we want to make sure that at a location, if we've inputted an event or a campaign, and we want to see the behavior of that campaign and is being measured properly. So if I've put in a new sale event and I'm making sure that people are coming in, how much of that impact is being changed by that actual campaign that I've put in that week? And all of this is being done simply by your network being the OS and the sensor for your environment. And then lastly, we have location analytics. Now this provides me a custom report based on all of my locations in which I can review my number of visitors across all of my locations. I can filter this out on overall dwell time, break down the dwell time. How long are people actually spending time at my retail locations or at any one of my facilities, and really break that down by day, month, or week. I can also break that down by SSID if need be. But it really provides me with an overall view of what all of my locations are being seen across my entire organization. So Spaces provides all of that information for you in a single environment, being able to use your network as a sensor, as well as the operating system platform that provides cross end-to-end Cisco capabilities to give you the analytics and the information to really know what your network is doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Blanca. So maybe just we got a few minutes, maybe just a couple of questions that kind of came to mind from my perspective. When you're thinking of open roaming, right? You mentioned you were talking about open roaming, which is kind of the next generation of Passpoint, right? It's the ability to have this large credential stores. If I were to go in and I were to get a Google credential, or I were to get an Apple credential, or maybe a credential from an SDK, can I turn around and use that same credential at other facilities? Or every facility I go to, I have to get a new credential?
You could use the same credential as long as that location is an ADP or an access provider. So if that organization also has an open roaming SSID, then that same credential can be used to access the wireless network.
Okay,
so you wouldn't have to get an additional one.
Okay, so if I got a Google credential that got me on my campus network, for example, I could use that potentially at the airport or at the movie theater or wherever this is offered over and over again for that same seamless experience.
Yes, that actually happens to me. I have an Edgy Roam ID, and anytime I go near an open roaming SSID, I always get authenticated onto an open roaming SSID with my Edgy Roam identity.
Very cool.
Because open roaming and Edgy Roam are part of the same federation.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Another quick question. And I don't know and by the way, if there's something coming in on the chat, I'm not seeing the chat. Please let me know if whoever's monitoring chat, if there's something we need to cover. But you mentioned early on, like WebEx devices, right? How do WebEx devices play into this? I mean, why would I want to have a WebEx device and as a part of the solution? I thought this was location from like APs and stuff.
Well, the good thing about Spaces as a whole is we're able to provide an end-to-end solution with Cisco infrastructure, in addition to being able to bring in our third-party applications and partners. But with our WebEx devices, they provide analytics from an occupancy perspective, in addition to environmental analytics. So our WebEx devices have smart visualize video endpoints, which recognize your head and shoulders. So right away, we're able to know when someone walks in to a conference room, and then the second and the third and the fourth person comes in, that there's 4 people in that conference room. So now we know that's occupied by 4 people that came to the meeting. So then also a lot of our collab devices also have environmental analytics in them. So we're able to tell the temperature, the humidity in them. So now we can actually relay this information in our Space Explorer within Cisco Spaces. So people are aware of their overall space. They can know what the temperature is going to be like in a conference room, and they can visualize what the overall occupancy will be like for the room. So let's say a conference room is really only for 6 people, but they already see that there's 4 people that's in the room. They only know that there's going to be 2 more people that can come into the room, but also now they know what the temperature is like in that conference room as well.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So one more question, and then Abram, we'll turn it over to you just real quick. So you mentioned location, and you mentioned ultra wideband, and so my experience has been like when I talked about that large conference center, right? We did location based on Wi-Fi RSSI. It was okay. We used directional antennas to try to optimize it and that sort of stuff. And we got reasonably good results out of that. But generally, it was sort of because of the probing rates of Wi-Fi, we didn't generally get really precise locations and that sort of stuff. How has that technology evolved? Are we still doing, is it still just Wi-Fi based? Because you mentioned ultra wideband, you mentioned BLE. Do we still have Wi-Fi based location? How does that work now?
We still have several organizations, and we still fully support Wi-Fi location-based services, as I mentioned, because they've been around for 18 years. But recently, at least in the last 5 years, BLE is really taken off, and mainly because they're based on intervals versus probes. So that can actually, I can now control the intervals in which the BLE checks in, right? So now I can get more accurate locations from BLE services versus Wi-Fi services. Wi-Fi services is normally anywhere from 7 to 10 meters, where with BLE, I can get anywhere from 3 to 5 meters. And then if you really design it properly, you can actually get a little bit better than that. And then most recently, ultra wideband has really come out of the gate the last 2 years. And this is sub 1 meter, where we're really talking about time of flight packets, right? So now we're actually getting sub 1 meter of location services. So now we're really moving further ahead in location-based services, where we're not solely dependent on wireless location-based services any longer. We can really move up the stack depending on the requirements of how much accuracy do you need to know? Like, do you need to know where the wheelchair is, or do you need to know where that garment exactly is, or that, you know, high powered microscope might be? It all really depends on what the demand is for the organization on their location. And based on that, we can actually then increase the location-based services. But also, ultra wideband is now coming more and more common in our mobile devices. We have several mobile devices that are actually supporting ultra wideband and fair time measurement. So those location-based services are actually getting a lot better. And fine time measurement is moving into wayfinding as well. So now we're getting better wayfinding than we used to with just BLE wayfinding.
Okay, so it's more accurate,
More
and
accurate.
it's a higher update rate.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, and of course, the update rates are directly proportional to accuracy also, right? So
Yes.
that's fantastic. And I think I've seen some examples of like blue dot tracking now from spaces. Is that,
Yes.
are we able to do blue dot tracking with spaces directly now?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
fantastic. All right. Well, we may have more questions later on, but thanks, Blanca, for helping us out here. Ibrahim, let's turn it over to you and over to your presentation on Aislelabs, and love to hear more about what Aislelabs can do, and you know, how we can again bring that revenue generation to the Wi-Fi network.
Absolutely. Thanks for the intro, Al. I'm just going to do a quick tech check. If you could just let me know when you can see my screen.
Looks good. We got it.
Awesome. Okay. So hello, everyone. You may have heard me speak about Aislelabs before or not. But in a nutshell, we have a great partnership here at Cisco with Cisco that I want to talk to you about today. And I really want to hone in on specifically how via Cisco Spaces, in tandem with Aislelabs or not, you can really extract value, tangible value out of your existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So that's really the theme of my presentation today. In case you haven't heard of Aislelabs before, we're a Toronto-based company. We've been a Cisco partner for several years now. And essentially what we do is we partner with a variety of different industries, whoever has kind of a physical property as a way to use Wi-Fi to achieve specific business outcomes for various departments. And the problem that we're fundamentally trying to solve here is overcoming kind of the barriers, the traditional barriers that you would have when it comes to understanding your visitor behavior, how they move and flow within your space, how often they visit, that sort of thing, as well as who your visitors are, as far as their demographics, their identity, and that sort of thing. So to be a bit more specific, these problems tend to be centered around high capex that's associated with understanding your visitor behavior. So traditionally, if I want to know how many visits I have to my property, I would have to get some kind of camera and install that. So you have a capex investment there, a hardware investment with some maintenance on top of that. Your data sources might be a bit fragmented if you're using a camera, your ticketing system, and so on. So how can you get close to kind of a true count that doesn't require a significant hardware investment? And then as far as understanding how you're understanding who your visitors are, I like to compare digital marketers to what we call here at Aislelabs a built environment marketer or property marketer. That's somebody who's in a marketing team with a physical property. Now, the digital marketer knows, there's tools and analytics capabilities to understand, who visited your website, even if they haven't necessarily filled out a contact us form or something like that. The property marketer doesn't have that luxury, right? They have no idea who walks through those doors. So the key is being able to de-anonymize that visitor so that your marketing team can then act on that and personalize engagements with that person and really try to get them to come back. I would even go one step further and say, in this day and age, if you're a property marketer, the chances are you're not just interacting with your customer when they're physically there in person, but you might have an online component of your business, be it an e-commerce platform or a newsletter, like a loyalty program you have on your website, and that sort of thing. So because the customer journey is phygital, which is kind of both online and offline, being able to coordinate your marketing activities or any kind of engagements you have to your visitors across those different channels, that's posing to be a real challenge, and that's one we're looking to overcome, particularly using Wi-Fi. So just super high level overview. I think Bianca put it perfectly. How this all works. We're essentially collecting RTLS data from your existing Cisco devices. That's Cisco devices and collaboration devices as well. So every couple of seconds or so, the phone that I have in my pocket is going to probe for networks to connect to. Your controller today is already recording that RTLS data. So Aislelabs location engine just processes that RTLS data. We have our own proprietary algorithm that we use essentially to sort these thousands and thousands of data points into meaningful analytics. So this would be things like how many visits are you getting to your property, the dwell time, how many of those visits are unique visitors, visit frequencies, and so on. And just like Cisco Spaces, we take a floor plan and overlay that data on top of the floor plan so you can see the flow of traffic throughout your venue, particularly as we segment the floor plan into smaller zones so you can start to hone in on specific parts of your venue. For example, if you wanted to understand how your tenants are performing and that sort of thing. So that's how we extract value out of Wi-Fi from an analytics perspective. No one has to connect to the network for this to work as long as the Wi-Fi setting is turned on. So you're virtually capturing 90+% of the visitor population using this methodology. The second way we can extract value out of Wi-Fi is through monetization, which Bianca touched on. Generally, what we see is when you have a landing page, it's valuable real estate, and we typically see monetization with guest Wi-Fi happening in one of three ways. The first is visitor data collection. So Bianca mentioned, right, that just collecting that user's email or their name or what have you, and finally having a way to de-anonymize that visitor and know that, it is actually Jane Doe who opened my email and then came back after 14 days. So I know I can actually attribute a return visit to that campaign. On top of that, it's one of the more inexpensive ways for marketers to acquire emails. It's not uncommon to see, sub 25 cents an email when you use guest Wi-Fi. So it's a really powerful tool for growing your customer database and being able to engage with them in real time when they're at your venue. The second branch of kind of monetizing your guest Wi-Fi is really around sponsorships and monetizing the tenants that you may or may not have at your property. So again, just taking it back to this idea of this is extra real estate, digital real estate, where you can display a sponsor. There's several ways to do this. We've seen implementation of ad exchanges embedded into the captive portal, and that way you're selling ads on a CPM model. We've seen kind of a fixed rate sponsorship agreements. We've even seen really innovative tenant monetization tools where, and as you can see in the example on the slide here, where maybe a tenant is being promoted and there's a coupon tied to that promotion. If that coupon is ultimately claimed and redeemed, there's a revenue sharing model that's driving this. So both the tenant and the property manager generate revenue in this way. And then the third and final branch of guest Wi-Fi monetization, this tends to be more hospitality centric, which is offering a premium Wi-Fi and using the captive portal as essentially the interface for somebody to buy a premium Wi-Fi package from you, typically distinguished by higher speeds or maybe unlimited time access. But this is an additional revenue stream that you could potentially unlock from your Wi-Fi. Okay. So a lot of this is more or less repetition, I would say, from what Bianca showed at Cisco Spaces, because there's a great solution right there. So I want to take a little bit of time to talk about kind of where the industry is heading, and particularly some new stuff we're developing here at Aislelabs that we're really excited about. We're releasing in a couple of months. So the first thing is what we call visit intelligence. As Bianca mentioned, this type of technology, this Wi-Fi analytics capability has been around for almost 2 decades now, and it's just gotten better and better at answering the what question, right? What's happening at my property? What we're doing now with visit intelligence is we're adding an AI layer that would seek to explain why you're seeing certain things happen at your property. In other words, if your traffic is spiking, if your traffic is dipping, why is that happening? And what we do is we use AI to attribute a variety of factors to traffic changes. Those would be, the weather, holidays, local holidays, your emails. So if you're sending campaigns or any kind of communications to your visitors, your events that you're having, tenant activity. So that could be maybe your tenant's running a promotion and that's causing a rise in traffic. Maybe your tenant has opened a location in a competing property or anything like that. And then finally, data health, which is just an indication of the data quality or the signal we're getting from your camera, your AP or whatnot. And the idea here is we really want to go bridge the gap between just an analytics solution to an insight solution, really reducing the analyst resource required to make the most out of a tool like this. So we're really excited about this. This is coming out in July. And I really recommend you look into something like this. The second thing we're doing is we're embracing being a multi-sensor platform. Today's day and age, I think most people are taking a multi-sensor approach. Just to give you some background context on this. If I had a property and I wanted to efficiently run my queues in a way that people are not spending a lot of time in queues, so I want to have insights that will inform whether or not I should open or close additional queues, I might use a camera actually, because I'm talking about such a small surface area that I want high precision. So a camera is gonna shine there. However, if I want end-to-end analytics on my entire property, how are people moving and flowing within the space? Cameras become less feasible because now I'm looking at installing a ton of cameras to cover every vantage point, and that might be cost prohibitive. So this is where Wi-Fi will really shine, because it will just detect somebody from the moment they enter to the moment they leave, will know a unique device from another, and just track that activity throughout. But suppose I wanted to look at my property as a whole, but also compare it to my competing properties or the whole metro. Then I might zoom out a little bit and use something like GPS or mobility data, which is lower resolution, captures a larger surface area, and so on. So my point is, different sensors have pros and cons, and they kind of have a sweet spot in which they're the most beneficial to your organization. For this reason, we see a multi-sensor approach being embraced, and we're doing the same thing. So we're making it super easy for you to ingest multiple data sources and implement them within Aislelabs, so you can co-display the different counts, but also, more importantly, blend the counts, assigning a specific weight to each input and coming up with your own quote unquote true count. So this is something where, if you're using Placer AI, if you're using kind of Meraki cameras and you're using Cisco infrastructure, you have a way to ensure that each technology is covering the drawback of the other. And that way you have a complete analytic solution. Finally, the last thing we're introducing is the Aislelabs Hotspot, or Hotspot 2.0. So this is exactly the way Bianca had described, in which we want to ensure seamless connectivity for the user before they even visit your venue, if need be. And in today's day and age, where macro randomization is becoming more frequent, we would basically want to ensure that people are not being booted off the network when they go from location to location. If they're revisiting after 2 weeks, they still have that seamless connectivity. So we're releasing Aislelabs Hotspot, which would give users the ability to pre-authorize connection to the Wi-Fi network in a variety of ways. This could be via URLs, QR codes, integrations into the app where they can do it before visiting your venue as well. So what are some of the benefits to this? Really, for me, my goal here is to give you an idea of how you could potentially take the Cisco infrastructure you have and deliver value to various departments you have in your organization. So that's kind of how I wanted to position, Wi-Fi analytics as a whole. So first and foremost, we see this being applied to operations departments, typically from a cost-saving perspective. We're seeing in this day and age, especially with more retail-centric properties, mixed use is on the rise. I don't think there's been a new kind of traditional mall being built in North America in the last 2 years. So mixed use is really the trend now. And one thing we're seeing with mixed use is that they're basically operating at 100% occupancy rates in terms of their tenants. They have no vacancies. So then profitability becomes a function of your operational efficiencies. Realizing those efficiencies is how you can increase your bottom line if you're completely maxed out from a tenant perspective. And one of those things that a lot of property managers are looking to when it comes to improving operational efficiencies is energy savings. So what we found is, here we have a tool that can quantify occupancy and is a super important factor that can influence, how often I should run my HVAC system. So we essentially see this data as being really valuable from the standpoint of optimizing your HVAC and saving potentially thousands on energy costs. Operations teams will also use this for maintenance planning. As Bianca put it, that use case of using occupancy to dispatch cleaning personnel to a bathroom every X amount of visitors, that's something we've seen for a while now. The pandemic was an example of a compliance use case where we're using occupancy to make sure that venues were adhering to mandated capacity limits and whatnot. Leasing, this is super valuable for leasing. Leasing teams for the longest time have been taking traffic data, foot traffic data, into lease negotiations. It's really good leverage when you're having a lease negotiation, and it's really nice data to have when you're trying to attract the tenant you want to your property. The problem is, tenants often have their own data set, or leasing teams are relying on mobility data, which might not be as accurate as they want to. So what we want to do is provide leasing teams with that single source of truth, particularly using multiple sensors, so we can empower them to optimize their lease negotiations as well. From a guest Wi-Fi perspective, I think most of the value you'll find is going to be geared towards marketing departments and revenue teams. And also a kind of a visitor / guest / particularly for airports, passenger experience departments. So for passengers experience departments, it's typically about that in-person, on-site visitor engagement. in particularly to collect feedback and visitor sentiment and promote, the posting of online reviews. So that ultimately what they're trying to do here is increase their NPS scores and get, feedback that they can then improve the visitor experience on. For marketing, there's a whole host of benefits. The first being just right off the bat, reducing your cost per email. And this is one that you can calculate today. You just need to go into your controller or your analytics dashboard, figure out, what's my connection rate today to the guest Wi-Fi. And that will give you a clue as to how much you can expect to get per email. And chances are it is going to bring your marketing team's average cost per email down. On top of that, you enable on-site visitor engagement. This concept of, a customer versus a customer that is in your property at this very moment or has just left your property, I think are two very distinct things. And I would say the latter is a lot more valuable to a marketing team. And it just enables them to deliver very contextual messaging and engage their visitors at the right time in their buyer journey. We've seen guest Wi-Fi being used to promote loyalty program adoptions, integrating with the loyalty program in a way to either promote it on the splash page or understand visit frequencies using Wi-Fi and targeting those people with X amount of visit frequency and funneling them into the marketing program. And then finally, for business and revenue teams is that Wi-Fi monetization piece, where you're extracting revenue out of your Wi-Fi through sponsorships or through paid Wi-Fi offerings as well. So because there's so many use cases, I just threw out a lot of different benefits that you could potentially get. You'll see that this is applicable to a variety of industries. What I've done is each of the benefits we've just looked at in the last two slides, I've just put assigned to each specific vertical that we work with. These are the 8 most common verticals that we work with. So you'll see, what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. What I mean by that is, an airport team will be very interested in the operational efficiency piece. Reducing that passenger dwell time is the currency, really. They'll be interested in HVAC optimization, maybe lease negotiations. Whereas a hotel is less so about, foot traffic data. They know how many people are there, more or less, just because they have a reservation system. And it's more about, how can we ensure a seamless connection experience for our guests and potentially offer a premium Wi-Fi that we could generate additional revenue from. So the point really I'm trying to make is take a look at this slide, look at, how this could potentially benefit your business. Just going beyond getting the data, how do I apply that data in a way that I can tangibly measure positive outcomes for various departments in my organization? So I'll segue that into a case study just to give an example of what I'm talking about so it's not so abstract. We did some work with the Dubai World Trade Center, a very large exhibition center in Dubai. They're over 1 million square feet. They have 2 million plus visitors a year, and they host more than 500 events a year. So they came to us, and essentially what they were looking to do is increase the revenue that they were generating from their sponsors and from their exhibitors. Excuse me. So we deployed both the analytics solution and the captive portal solution with their existing infrastructure. And what we did is first we took the floor plan and we zoned it into 52 individual unique spaces, where typically these would be where sponsors would have their exhibits and things like that. And then what we did is we basically used Wi-Fi analytics and heat mapping to identify what we called visitor hotspots. These would be areas that had either a particularly high visit count or a particularly high dwell time over the course of a day or a week. They then created really nicely designed captive portal landing pages where basically they would promote sponsors and they would assign captive portals to particular events and particularly spaces. So in other words, depending on which event I'm attending at the World Trade Center, I'll see a branded, customized landing page. But also where I am within that center, I would see something else. There were 2 examples of this. There is, I am at the exhibitor's location, therefore I see the exhibitor's branded captive portal, which is good. But what I personally liked a lot more, which is I am assigning a captive portal to an exhibitor in which it's broadcasted at the location that I'm not at. So I'm not at exhibitor A's exhibit, but when I connect to the Wi-Fi, I see an ad for them. In other words, incentivizing me to go check it out if I haven't already. And then the third thing we did is just use that landing page as an opportunity to capture visitor information. In this case, it was the demographics and also like your interests, right? Why are you here, or what exhibits are you looking forward to seeing today? That sort of thing. And the outcome of this was they were able to use this data to ultimately double their sponsorship revenue year over year. And they did this in 3 ways. The first is those visitor hotspots that they identified, they were able to justify different pricing tiers for depending on where you want to have your booth or your sponsorship asset. The second thing they did is they generated sponsorship revenue off those customized landing pages. And the third thing they did was that visitor info that they collected at the Wi-Fi login page, they eventually packaged and sold to sponsors after the event as kind of a BI service. So they unlocked a new revenue stream in this way. So between those 3 things, they were able to achieve the business outcome that they wanted. So what I like about this example, and the reason I included it, is they started off with the business outcome they wanted, and then we used, in this case, both analytics and guest Wi-Fi in a creative way to achieve that business outcome. So that's really what I mean by, bridging that gap between just analytics to insights, and then potentially making that next step to ROI. So we've kind of presented 2 different solutions here, but very similar, right? So let me take some time to talk about Aislelabs and Cisco Spaces, particularly our partnership and how these 2 solutions can work together. So there's 3 configurations that I've outlined here. The first is just using Cisco Spaces. Cisco Spaces has their location engine where they store RTLS data, and you can get all those great use cases using Cisco Spaces. The second is the same, but using Aislelabs location engine, where we store RTLS data and then provision analytics. And then the third, which is one we do quite often, which is using the Cisco location engine to sort the RTLS data and passing that sorted data to Aislelabs, where we can then input it into our dashboards and then apply some of the things that I would say is Aislelabs unique, like visit intelligence and that sort of thing. So Aislelabs can work with Cisco Spaces in a really beneficial way. So if you are an existing Cisco Spaces user, this is definitely an option for you. But at the end of the day, which one of these configurations should you choose? I would say it really just depends on your business needs. So what I want to kind of give you an idea is just some cues as to when it might be a good idea to start talking to Aislelabs or to consider putting Aislelabs into the configuration here. And there's 3 cues that I would keep an eye out for. The first is if you are using multiple data sources. As I mentioned, we're becoming a multi-sensor platform, not just purely a Wi-Fi analytics provider. So if you have multiple sensors today and you want something that will consolidate them, be it co-displaying it or blending it into a single source of truth, Aislelabs is going to have a relatively turnkey solution for that, for you to do exactly that. The second thing is if there is an advanced need for analytics or Wi-Fi marketing and that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, we're not an OEM. Our bread and butter, our sole focus is analytics, and analytics is a means to an end. So if you need any kind of analyst support, any kind of consultation as far as how can I make the most out of this data, the actual application to realize specific use cases, and if built environment marketing is a new thing, just being able to leverage that expertise. That's something that we really pride ourselves on. And then the third cue is really when there's a high need for third-party integrations. And this is something I say just by virtue of us being kind of a smaller, more agile organization, where we can accommodate a wide range of custom integrations you might have. We've done a ton of integrations with customer databases like CRMs and ESPs. We can provide an API if you're using a BI tool, HVAC control systems if you do want to save on energy costs. There's event management and ticketing systems, POS systems, your loyalty program, your mobile app. For those airports on the call, your AODB if you want to understand, how does incoming and outgoing flights interplay with my foot traffic, my dwell time, and add a predictive layer on top of that, and that sort of thing. So that's where I would recommend just give us a call. We'd love to explore how we could potentially add value and brainstorm that with you. So that's it for me. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to listen in to this call. I've just carved out a bit of time for Q&A. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your questions and your comments. And if you do want to discuss this further and explore, which departments Aislelabs could potentially help with your business, we would love to have that conversation. I've just put my email on the slide here, so feel free to shoot me an email. We'll set up a call, and I look forward to our chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Ibrahim. And you just actually caught my last question there, which was, how do we engage you? If somebody sees one of those three topics, how do they engage you with that? So he's going to have, you can see here's Ibrahim's email. I assume they can also go to your website and engage you that way.
Yeah, we'll post the link that will basically take you out to a form. Just fill the form, and we'll book some time in with you, and that's all it takes.
Okay. Then you showed at the end. You showed a slide. You showed Meraki integrating 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. Does it just integrate with Meraki, or does it also integrate with the controller Catalyst kind of controller?
Oh, it integrates with all of it. Yeah. So your WLC, your Catalyst, Cisco Meraki's, your MRs. It's pretty ubiquitous when it comes to Cisco equipment.
Okay. And then you also mentioned multi-sensor is one of those key things that would bring you into the picture. When we think of multi-sensor, are there any limitations? Okay, I've got a camera on my Desk Pro, for example. Does that count? I mean, what would we typically? So I've got these things. I should engage Aislelabs because I own these kind of devices. What would tip me off there?
Yeah, so if the devices you have have that analytic capability as far as people counting goes, then that's something that we can ingest and put into the dashboard. So I wouldn't say this is applicable to all cameras, but if you're using, just going to throw out some names, the Meraki cameras, Zovis, Axper, these different camera sources, then we'd be able to ingest that data, and that way we're comparing apples to apples.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. All right. Blanca, there was a question in the chat window about more data on BLE and ultra-wideband solutions. Any suggestions on that?
We have released on our Cisco online. So on our www.cisco.com, we have information on our BLE radios. With our Wi-Fi 7 access point release, we do have information on our ultra wideband capabilities. We're starting out with in our ultra wideband radio with AP auto placement, which I didn't discuss during this call. But we also have AP auto locate, which will use ultra wideband right out of the gate. That's our phase 1. Phase 2 would be location. Will be location-based services, and then RTLS services for ultra wideband, which will wrap up with ultra wideband. So he can contact any one of our Cisco account team members, but a lot of that information is already on our website regarding our ultra wideband and the 3 mechanisms that we use for ultra wideband services in our radios today.
Awesome. Okay, we got a bunch more questions in the chat window, but I think we're kind of out of time at this point. We only got about a minute left, so we'll probably have to see what we can do to answer those in the chat window itself. First of all, let me say thanks a ton, Blanca and Ibrahim, for joining us on this session. Learned a ton of information on this. There's great use cases here. Hopefully, people that are listening in can take these issues or these capabilities rather, and be able to monetize their Wi-Fi, right? And I think one other thing, just a quick mention, just so that for everybody that's on this call, we do this monthly. Hopefully you're still with us, so you got another minute to go to get your giveaway, your $20 gift certificate, right? But we do this monthly, right? And so next month we'll have another session on security, segmentation, that sort of stuff. Again, our apologies for not being able to cover all the questions. Appreciate these questions, appreciate everybody's time and everybody sticking around to the end like this. So, and again, thanks again, Ibram. Thanks again, Blanca, for your time on this. All right.
Thanks, Al, for emceeing.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.